Hello, everyone, and welcome to another tech episode here. Today, we're continuing with our series on the Sennheiser G3 wireless lavalier set. Today, we're going to be working on setting your levels. So we want to make sure that the levels are set properly on your transmitter, then on your receiver, and then we're going to go ahead and set the levels properly on the recording device. I do have a separate video showing you how to set levels on the Roland R44, so you can certainly check that out, and that portion would happen just like any other microphone. But first, you always want to go in the order of your signal chain. So you want to start with your microphone, whatever is closest to your microphone, which is going to be your transmitter, and then we want to go to the receiver, which is the next portion of the signal chain. And then we can go over to the recording device as the last portion of adjusting your levels for a proper recording. So what we're going to do is take a look here at our transmitter and receiver. So if you remember from our last episode, we have the transmitter and the receiver. They look almost identical. The biggest difference is going to be that mute switch. The mute switch goes to the actor so they can mute themselves if they need to for some privacy. So that's where the microphone is going to go in. The other cable, that's going to be plugged into your receiver there, and the XLR end is going to go into your recording device. So we'll go ahead and take a look at how to actually set the levels. So as I said, we want to start with the section that is closest to the microphone, the beginning of the signal chain. So in order to do that, we're going to go over to our receiver here, and I'm going to want to hold the microphone in a way where that microphone is close to where it's going to be mounted on the actor. So, when you're just getting these things set up, you want to make sure that things are good before you go ahead and put it on the actor. So you want to test it on yourself. You don't want to mount it to yourself, but you just kind of want to hold it in the general area it's going to be. And then we can go ahead and mount that actually on our actor and feel much more secure and be spending a lot less time setting those levels and fiddling with things around actors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold that microphone in place, and I'm going to take my transmitter here. I'm going to hit the set button, and I'm going to go to sensitivity. It was already there, but if it wasn't, I would just back here. If you're on the main screen, you go to sensitivity. If it's not there, you just arrow up and down until you get to sensitivity there. So I'm going to hit the sensitivity button, and I can now change that sensitivity up and down. So it depends on your microphone. It depends on how loud the person is that's speaking. There's a lot of different variables that go into how loud you're going to set this. And unfortunately, we can't see the meter when we're changing that number. It's just kind of a design flaw, I think, in these machines here. I think it would be much more convenient to add that at that point. But basically, the way we have to do this is we're just going to guess and check. So I'm going to go to a number, -27 seems like a good place to start. Again, it depends on which microphone I'm using. All of my microphones from different companies have different thresholds that work better regardless of my voice. So if I start that we'll start at -27, I'll hit the set button, it'll say stored, and then I'll go out to the main screen here, and I'll just keep talking. And as I'm talking, you see that meter going up and down and bouncing there. As it's bouncing up and down, basically what we're looking for is that meter to be a little bit more than halfway, but not all the way up to the top. All the way up to the top is what is called peaking or overmodulation, and that's going to be bad. If it hits 0 or hits that box up all the way up at the top, if I get really loud or talk directly into it, you see that it is lighting up the box up at the top, and the yellow AF light lit up. That yellow light is bad. That little box lighting up all the way up at the top, that is bad as well. That's indicating that your sound is peaking or overmodulating, so you never want to see that. A good place for these is to be coming, again, a little bit more than halfway on that meter. If it's coming a little bit more than halfway, that's usually a pretty strong signal, but it gives you enough buffer, enough safety net up at the top, just in case your actor gets louder than expected, and they almost always do. Just about any time you put a mic on an actor and you ask them to say some words to test their levels and whatnot, you'll find that as soon as they get on set, the sort of the acting takes over, and they get a lot louder and start just projecting a lot more. So make sure that you give them a little bit of a buffer so that if they do get a little bit louder, they don't just immediately go into clipping and overmodulation, and you have some wiggle room there. A lot of times, if you're dealing with things that are or actors or sounds that are very rangy, you might actually put two lavaliers on them and set one a little bit higher and one a little bit lower, so that when they do get too loud, you have that secondary backup or safety net there. But for the most part, you should be good with one lav as long as you set it based on what's required for the scene. Sometimes, you might have to adjust it based on moments in the scene, but, you don't want to get in there too often. That can be really disruptive. So again, we're going to set that so it's basically coming up a little bit more than halfway. Just to show you that process again, I want to unlock here. That is something you can come across. Basically, if it's locked, you just have to hit that arrow up or down button and it will unlock it again. So we'll go back to that sensitivity. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change that sensitivity down. Now notice these numbers are going up as I'm pushing the down button. That's because these are negative numbers. So it's in negative decibels. So if that number is higher, it's actually going lower in level. So what I'm going to do is hit the set button there, put it at 45, negative 45, and you notice as I'm talking there, that level is way down here at the bottom, barely even registering. Test 1, 2, 1, 2. I have to put it right next to my mouth here even to get anything registering near what we would want. So again, if that mic's in its actual position, nowhere near loud enough for what we're doing. So I'm just going to go back to the set. I'm going to turn off that lock again. There we go. And then we can go back to your sensitivity and again, bring that back up. Up in negative numbers is lower numbers, but that 27 was pretty good. Let's try 24. Let's take a look at what that does. Hit the on-off button. Test 1, 2. Test 1, 2. Yeah, for my voice, I would be okay with that. You know what? No, that's a little high. I'm going to go back and bring that down 1, 27. So let's go here, test 1, 2, 1, 2. Yeah, I'm a little bit more comfortable with leaving that on an actor. So again, this is just me testing things, getting things set up before I go to the actor at all. Once I get it on the actor, I want to redo this and make sure and check their level based on that meter again to make sure that they are coming up more than halfway. Their voice is going to carry different. They might be deeper or higher pitched. That's going to be picked up differently on the microphone. It's going to be buried under layers of clothing. That's going to be picked up differently. So you always want to make sure that you change that level on the actor once the microphone is in its final position. If it's under 5 layers of closed, that makes a huge difference between it being, right on top and held in front of things. So again, we follow that signal chain down. We go from the microphone to the transmitter. Now we're going to go over to the receiver here. So on the receiver, what I want to do is go over to the AF out, as we talked about in the other video a little bit. I'll hit the set button and scroll on down to, there we go, AF out. And that I usually put at -6. -6 is good for the machine I usually record these into, which is the Roland R44. There is a separate video on that. Based on the preamps of the machine that you're using, you may want to go up or down on that. The Roland preamps are okay-ish, so I tend to give it a little bit more signal from the receiver here. If I was going into a sound devices or something that I knew I could jack the preamps up a little bit more and get still cleaner sound out of, I might bring that level down to maybe -12 on these so that these aren't doing as much work and putting as much of their own noise into the recording, and I'm getting a higher quality amplification through the device that I'm using. So it is kind of, again, something you'll have to play with and test what results you get. You can literally just do some recordings at different AF out and listen to the amount of noise and the amount of sound that it's creating, and you'll basically find a balance, just like any other mixer and gain setup. You just have to play with things to try and figure out what's going to be the best combination for the setup that you're running. But once you get that set to the -6 there, or whatever you're going to, you can go as high as 0. I wouldn't go past 0 on these though. If you go louder than 0 into positive numbers, which these do have, that's more for like a line input. Like if you needed to listen to headphones on these, you'd have to go up to like positive, I think it's like positive 12 or something like that. Let me take a look here. If we hit set, AF out, yeah, we can go all the way up to positive 12. So if you need to like plug your headphones in to listen to see, just hear what's happening, you can do that, but you have to turn that AF out way up because that would be more of a line level. It's still not quite line level. Line level is usually like 20, but 12 will get you at least to, something similar to that. Again, I wouldn't go higher than -6. 0 is pushing it. Positive numbers are only if you just have to listen to, on the fly with headphones or something like that. Once we get that set though, we can go ahead and plug in our XLR cable here. Just plug that directly in like any other microphone into your recording device. And then you'll set those levels on your recording device just like any other microphone. So you'll set your gain first, make sure your level is at unity or 0 or whatever your mixer is standard for not adding or subtracting, and then start adding your gain. Bring your gain up until your level is coming, I usually recommend between -20 and -12. And if you're getting that strong signal from your gain, then with your level or your littler knobs, you can usually feather that in, up or down during a scene if you need to. Well, that's about it for lavalier levels here. Hope that was helpful, and thanks for joining us.